A brush fire burning in Alpine has destroyed homes. We'll show you how firefighters are trying to gain control. The Trump administration says it wants more time to reunite families separated at the border. Details on a hearing held today in San Diego. And a new health risk for San Diego's homeless population. The new warning for a highly contagious bacteria. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. On a day of extreme heat, firefighters have been busy with wildfires in East County and Camp Pendleton. 3 fires popped up late this morning. The most serious fire is in Alpine. It's called the West Fire. Cal Fire says it has destroyed several homes. It's burning near the 8 and West Willow Road. Evacuations have been ordered in the area. Firefighters also responded to fires in Del Zura and Camp Pendleton. The fire in Alpine is the biggest challenge. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is in Alpine, where 400 acres have burned. Matt.
Yeah, Ebony, we're actually just down the road from where that fire started. We're here at Viejas Casino, where they've set up an evacuation site. You can see there were a lot of people here before. Now the American Red Cross is out here. But yeah, just like you mentioned, the latest from fire officials on the West Fire is 400 acres burned with 5% containment. Now, when we got here earlier today, we were near Alpine Boulevard and Victoria Drive, where all this started near an Albertson shopping center. Now, people were evacuated from there, but flames got dangerously close to nearby businesses. Fire crews were able to stop the fire from spreading toward that shopping center, but as we moved further down Alpine Road, there was fire everywhere. It got dangerously close to the 8 freeway. As we continued down the road, we saw some large equipment burning out of business. It sent thick black smoke into the air. Workers there, they were afraid. They told us they were worried about oil drums exploding when all of a sudden this happened. And there's a bunch of construction equipment on fire right now, and things are exploding. As you can see, flames just spewing out of that mess of equipment right there. Right where we are right here, there's a little embankment here, and again, whoa, something just exploded. Oh my goodness. Huge explosion here in Alpine. Yeah, now back out here live near Viejas Casino, you can see that Red Cross disaster van over there. This is one of the evacuation centers, and in addition to this one, there's one at Las Cochas Middle School, and animals and livestock, they're being told to go to the Lakeside Rodeo Grounds. Now, coming up later in the show, this fire, as you just heard, it was very destructive. It did destroy some homes, and we'll show you how those flames just overtook some mobile homes. Out here live near Viejas Casino, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Thanks, Matt. A brush fire is also threatening homes on Camp Pendleton. The Marine Corps shared this photo of firefighters battling flames. Several hundred homes have been evacuated in the Duluth and O'Neill housing areas. The fire has burned 125 acres. Here's some more video of the West Fire shared by a woman who lives in Hamul. That's about 15 miles away from where the fire is burning. The plume of smoke was seen as far away as Mission Valley. A separate fire destroyed a building in Del Zura. That's in the southeast corner of the county. The fire started around 10:30 off State Route 94 near Community Building Road. About 10 acres burned. Justin Pavic is tracking the conditions that firefighters are dealing with.
In the wake of our record-breaking heat for today, still talking about a very mild night, double digits above normal, well into the 70s. Even as we talk about the coastal areas, inland even warmer than that here at night. Fire danger elevated but not critical like they're having further off toward the north, heading in toward L.A. and the surrounding mountains. And the high heat persists on Saturday, perhaps just a couple of notches down from today. Hence, again, the heat advisories expiring later on this evening. Still major heat, though, throughout the next several hours. La Jolla, Chula Vista, excessive heat warnings. That's what we're talking about in the red shaded zones, and that's where we have achieved or reached or surpassed the century mark Again, it's just been scorching out there, and it'll still be hot heading into Saturday. There could be a stray shower, thunderstorm over some of the mountainous terrain, some of the lower deserts, but for the most part will be on the dry side. Talking about the numbers again running well above normal. How warm, you might say? Well, check it out here over the interior. Borrego Springs up to 111, San Diego 89, Chula Vista topping off at 91 degrees, so setting more record high temperatures. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
Some power outages are reported as a result of the fire in Alpine. SDG&E was already facing high demand today due to the extreme heat. KPBS reporter Jade Hyman is at SDG&E headquarters with an update. Jade?
Well, Ebony, right now, all hands are on deck. They're inside watching this closely. Right now, the power is out in Alpine. 3,500 customers are without electricity. San Diego Gas and Electric tells me they had to de-energize power in the Alpine area. That means they had to turn it off. 2 circuits went out because of smoke, and a third they shut off because of safety reasons. So right now, they're trying to get a timeline together on when they'll actually be able to restore that power.
It's off for now. We're continuing to monitor the situation. Safety is top priority. And for us to be able to turn power back on, we've got to make sure and determine that those are safe to do so. So we have crews on the ground that are working closely with the fire crews to make sure that these are safe areas for us to turn power back on. But this time, we've not been able to turn any power back on.
And it's a hot day, too.
Indeed.
And they are encouraging people without power to head to the cooling center set up by the county in the area. One of them being the Viejas Casino. Outside of Alpine, they don't expect any more outages, even as this heat wave continues. Live, Jade Hindman, KPBS News.
Thanks, Jade. The heat wave prompted the county to close down several hiking trails. The county also opened cooling centers today. Most centers are generally in libraries like the El Cajon Library, plus senior centers and community centers. They all provide air-conditioned sheltered while in operation.
We do see a lot of seniors on cool zone days. We also see a lot of families with young kids. Because we have places for the kids to play, to sit and read, and it allows the families to just kind of, be here, hang out. We often have performers or crafts or things to keep them entertained.
Posted a link to all San Diego County cooling centers at kpbs.org. The U.S. Department of Justice wants more time to reunify children separated from their families at the U.S. border. But as KQED's John Sepulveda reports, the judge overseeing the case wants the government to turn over a list of children under 5 years old in the government's custody.
Federal Judge Dana Sabra says he can't decide whether more time should be given for unification because the government isn't being clear exactly why they need that time. So the judge ordered the government to turn over a list of 101 children, all of whom are under age 5. ACLU staff attorney Anand Balakrishnan says the government is having a hard time finding thousands of children who have been separated from their families.
2,600 to like over 3,000 children who have been separated from their parents. You know, it's a situation which many Americans are following. People are willing to throw resources into it. I mean, it's a humanitarian crisis, and I think there's a way of designing a system where the government and the private bar can work together to solve it.
Now, the judge seems to agree there are considerable problems, so he's keeping the order narrow and ordering the government to turn over that list of 101 children, again, all of whom are under the age of 5. Now, this is just to start with. Judge Sabra says that this list will help him understand why the government needs more time to reunify those kids by Tuesday, as he previously ordered. The government objected to releasing the information, saying the release will distract agencies from reunifying the families. The judge didn't really buy that argument and ordered the information to be released by Saturday at 5 p.m. As of now, children under 5 are supposed to be reunified with their parents by July 10th. For KPBS News, I'm John Sepulveda.
Some politicians are calling for an end to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the agency that detains and deports migrants. But today in Washington, Vice President Mike Pence spoke with ICE at the headquarters and offered a strong defense of its mission.
A leading candidate for governor of New York actually even appallingly called this agency a terrorist organization. Now, let me be clear on this point. The American people have a right to their opinions. But these spurious attacks on ICE by our political leaders must stop. I want to make it clear to all of you and all of those looking on. Under President Donald Trump, we will never abolish ICE.
Vice President Pence says more than 200,000 undocumented immigrants were removed from the country by ICE last year. The Associated Press reports the Army is discharging some recruits who joined as immigrants. The AP spoke with immigration attorneys who say more than 40 recruits were impacted. The recruits say the Army told them they were either a security risk or had trouble completing a background check. The Pentagon told the AP that it won't comment on the discharges due to ongoing litigation. A year ago, San Diego County battled a hepatitis outbreak. Now, KPBS health reporter Susan Murphy tells us health officials have issued an advisory of another highly contagious disease.
The Health and Human Services Agency is warning homeless people, gay men, and those with a weakened immune system that they could be at an increased risk for shigellosis. Symptoms of the intestinal bacterial infection include diarrhea, fever, and abdominal pain. County Public Health Officer Dr. Wilma Wooten says Shigella is the bacteria that causes the disease, and it's very contagious.
You develop symptoms after 1 to 3 days of being exposed, and the symptoms can last 5 to 7 days.
County officials report the number of cases typically increases in late summer and fall, and there have already been nearly 100 cases of shigellosis this year. In 2017, a total of 334 cases were reported, a nearly 40% increase compared to 2016. Wooten says the disproportionate increase has been seen in the gay community and among the homeless population.
Because of the fact that they have been seen disproportionately in the homeless population, we also disseminated information to the staff at the tent shelters so that they could be on the lookout for individuals that might have diarrhea.
She says averting an outbreak is essential. The bacteria is spread person to person.
So if an individual is infected, they go to the bathroom, they don't appropriately clean their hands, they touch doorknobs or any objects in the community, and someone else comes behind them who's not infected, they touch those objects, and then they touch their hands to their mouth or handle food and consume that contaminated food, then they can become infected.
Wooten says the disease is treated with antibiotics, though some strains of the bacteria are resistant to the medication.
If a person is infected, we want them to see doctors, particularly if they have bloody diarrhea, so that their stool can be tested, number one, to determine what the bacteria is, so the appropriate antibiotics can be administered.
She says hand washing is the main way to prevent the disease. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the Trump administration asked for more time to reunite separated immigrant families. That's coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The company that owns and operates the Carlsbad desalination plant in Carlsbad wants to expand to Orange County. Environmental groups are putting up a fight. But as Dave Nazar reports, a former U.S. senator is supporting the project.
Water is to California what oxygen is to humans. The state could not exist without it. So when a private company called Poseidon Water decided to build a desalination plant in the city of Carlsbad in San Diego County 20 years ago, they were onto something. Desalination is a process of turning salty ocean water into drinking water, using what's called reverse osmosis. The water can then be put in city pipes as tap water. This is basically the same system used to create some bottled water you get at your local store. And desal is used all over the world in places like Israel, Australia, and South America, and now here in Carlsbad. In 2012, construction began on this billion-dollar project. 3 years later, it was completed. Today, the Carlsbad desalination plant has already produced over 25 billion gallons of drinking water.
It's the largest seawater desalination plant in the Western Hemisphere.
It's capable of producing 50 million gallons per day of drinking water from the Pacific Ocean. That's enough water for about 400,000 people.
Poseidon has plans for another billion-dollar desal project, this one in Orange County's famed Surf City, USA, Huntington Beach. Poseidon wants to build next to this old steam generating plant on Pacific Coast Highway, just south of the iconic Huntington Beach Pier.
So in Huntington Beach, we're in the final phase of the permitting process. We anticipate that we'll successfully obtain all the permits that we need to build the facility by the end of 2018. About 3 years to build the facility.
Poseidon's Huntington Beach project has been met with all kinds of challenges and obstacles over the last decade, partly from angry environmentalists who've been trying to stop the project, arguing that desalination harms the ocean, seafloor, and marine life. The company says their design includes using pipes fitted with mesh screens a width of a dime or credit card to bring in the water and keep the sea life out so nothing gets harmed. However, environmentalists, like former Huntington Beach Mayor Debbie Cook, are concerned about things like all the fish larvae and fish eggs that are going to be killed when the water is extracted through the screens.
Well, a credit card is pretty thick still when you're considering the kind of marine life we're talking about, the phytoplankton, the plankton, the larvae, all of that. And it can absolutely get through a credit card sized screen. Remember, the reverse osmosis membrane is a death chamber for all marine life. It kills everything that gets sucked in.
Cook and many other critics are also angry because they say desal is the most energy-intensive way to produce water.
Most people think we need to conserve energy because producing energy puts a lot of carbon in the atmosphere, of which the ocean is the biggest sink. And that's one of the reasons it's warming so dramatically. We have to have the ocean or we will not survive on this planet.
Cook is not alone in her criticism. In fact, several organizations have gone on the record to oppose Poseidon. Organizations like Heal the Bay, California Coastkeeper, the Natural Resources Defense Council, the Surfrider Foundation, and the Sierra Club, just to name a few. And yet, with all that said, one of the nation's most staunch environmentalists is doing everything she can to promote the new Huntington Beach desal project for Poseidon. Former Democrat Senator Barbara Boxer of California has been called the most liberal environmentalist the U.S. Senate has ever seen. Now the Poseidon Company has hired Boxer as their consultant. At a recent public hearing to discuss the proposed Huntington Beach project, Boxer, who normally receives much environmental praise, was booed and heckled when angry enviros confronted her, insisting the former senator had betrayed them. When we met with Boxer at the beach in Carlsbad, she was taking all the criticism in stride.
I'm working on desal because I've always believed that desal is critical in terms of the way we adapt to climate change. It's crucial. And I supported this plant as a senator years ago. So here we have our ocean. There it is, as far as the eye can see. And if there are ways to take the salt out of it in an environmentally sensitive way and using the advances of technology, let's do it. And if a private company is willing to pay for the $1 billion, let's do it. And if we want to know if desal works, let's look at Israel, for an example. And let's look right in Carlsbad, for example, where we're seeing millions of gallons a day of drinkable water.
That report is part of the PBS SoCal program, Sustaining California. You can find more stories at pbssocal.org.
The government strives to meet deadlines to unify immigrant families, and Mexico elects a new president. San Diego leaders get the first ever comprehensive report on the housing crisis. And big changes inside and out at Comic-Con. Join us for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
This extreme heat will last through tomorrow before we see a cool down. Justin Pavic has details in tonight's forecast.
I'll tell you what a hot afternoon. Dangerously hot out there, and still it's scorching. Warm night coming up. Additional heat on Saturday will not be quite as intense. We're going to have the latest on the warnings and advisories coming up, including even some high surf advisories and some changes that will be occurring kind of at a slow process here bit by bit right into next week. All right, 2 zones here where we have heat advisories continuing throughout the evening. Oceanside, La Jolla, San Diego, Chula Vista, and then just east toward Ramona. Yeah, we're talking about excessive heat warnings here. Valley locations well over 100 degrees for today. Mountainous terrain toward Mount Laguna. Heat advisories continuing throughout the evening. Also looking at high surf advisories here in the blue shaded zones where we're talking about the strong longshore currents, 5 to 8 feet. And of course, this is very dangerous and hazardous to swimmers. And this is going on right through the evening hours as well. All right, what's in store for the upcoming weekend? Could see a stray thunderstorm or two popping off here over the higher terrain toward Mount Laguna. Many locations will again see temperatures well above normal, even in some cases by double digits. In fact, I think we'll be flirting with, not even break, another record high temperature here in San Diego. With that said, not quite as hot as earlier on today, but pretty warm. I mean, we average mid-60s at night. We're talking mid-70s later on. Look at this at around Borrego Springs, just boiling here into the mid-80s. Oceanside, one of the few locations that will actually slip down below the 70-degree mark. But look at this, back in the 90s as we venture into tomorrow. San Diego, 89. Look at that, Ramona, 105. Borrego Springs back into the 1-teens. And there's that stray thunderstorm chance toward Mount Laguna. Coastal locations here are going to be topping off into the 80s. So there's a little bit of a cool down coming in with a bit of an onshore flow as we go through time. Inland zones talking about a bit of a cool down as well. Heading into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday could even see a stray thunderstorm. And then throughout the mountainous terrain, notice the numbers coming doin into the 70s heading in toward Tuesday and Wednesday. Saturday, 88. We'll be talking about the deserts here, cooling off a bit as well as we go further on down the line. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic. Back over to you, Ebony.
More than 3 million people call San Diego and Imperial County home, with 9,000 square miles of space. As part of our KPBS Explore project, we traveled to 5 communities to find out what makes them so special. Oceanside is a military town that's home to a mix of cultures from around the world. Here's the latest from our special series, Where I Come From.
I think growing up, I think it's just a cry over see. You know, I was one of them who just, they're fighting for a chance, you know. They're fighting for a way to just have better.
There's crime, without a doubt. In my neighborhood in the 90s and early 2000s, there were definitely a lot of gang activity, lots of drugs, lots of homicides. Those numbers have declined, but you could still kind of feel that vibe around the town.
I keep hearing this really ugly term that we're like ocean slime. One of my classmates, she never told her friends that she was from Oceanside. She would always lie and tell them, oh, I'm from Carlsbad, because she was embarrassed.
And people would make you very aware that you were from Oceanside. There was a tension, very palpable. There was a dirtiness to it.
It's kind of like Oceanside against everybody else.
I think that people don't understand how much struggle is within Oceanside.
There's a badge of honor when you're saying you're from Oceanside. There's a resiliency about them. There was things that you've had to overcome to get where you are in life because of the dynamics of our city.
I think people come in and they see these nice buildings and these expensive hotel rooms and these expensive places to eat, and everything is hidden, like down, pushed into the deep valley and into, you know, into the east side. And it's really just hidden all the pain and all of the struggle that really resides within the resident.
We have more resources for like less advantaged individuals versus other communities. We're more accepting, we're more willing to help.
Oceanside, once upon a time we used to say, hey, it's up and coming, but I'm proud to say that I see it happening now, and it's a beautiful thing.
You can watch the rest of this series at kpbs.org/Where I Come From. And we'd like to hear what you think about our series. Join the conversation on the KPBS Facebook page. Now, here's an update on the brush fire burning in Alpine. CAL FIRE says 350 acres and several homes have burned. The West Fire broke out late this morning near the 8 and West Willows Road. Smaller fires also broke out today in Del Zura and Camp Pendleton. Let's go back to KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman, who was near the fire in Alpine. Matt?
Yeah, Ebony, we're here at Viejas Casino. We're in one of their parking lots. It's being used as an evacuation center, but all day and all afternoon on those helipads back there, helicopters have been taking off, dropping water. Now, earlier we showed you that fire was spreading very fast with high temperatures and gusting winds, and to combat that, firefighters used a number of tools to fight the flames. Yeah, lots of water drops made by helicopters here in Alpine today. They were trying to stop the flames from spreading to nearby homes. But as you can see, some were completely destroyed. This is at Alpine Oaks, where a number of mobile homes were overtaken by flames. One man we talked to here was evacuated so quickly that he had to leave his pet cat, and he's been unable to find that cat. Now, firefighters seem to get a handle on this fire, but flare-ups all day have been keeping them busy. Now, back out here live, there were people with horse trailers trying to get into where that fire was. They said they had a number of horses there. It's unclear if they were able to get those horses. Back out here near Viejas Casino, the American Red Cross is out here, and they say they're going to be out here as long as they need to. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening.